back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking to you all about how I break down a big writing project, particularly when it feels really overwhelming. Having an idea for a big writing project can be really exciting, but if you're anything like me, once that initial rush of excitement just goes down that little bit, the doubts then start creeping in. And you start questioning whether you can do this, whether you're up to the job, whether you're the right person to write this. So many different questions just come flooding into your brain. Or it might be simply that the sheer size of the project feels overwhelming, and maybe something that's out of your comfort zone, something that you've never done before, and it just stops you from starting and you don't even know where to start. This was me last week. I have a new writing project that I'm really excited about. It is a non-fiction book proposal, and I initially gave myself until the end of January to finish it. Last week, my first full week back at work, back writing, I did very little on it. In fact, yeah, I did think about it a little bit, but in terms of practical application, I did nothing. And instead of doing the project, I found little tasks to do around the house, and I set about doing those instead. So this week I was determined to get back to the project and really make significant progress on it and actually get words written. What I decided to do was to start the night before. So this was Sunday night, and I got myself organised. So the first thing I did was some journaling, just getting some thoughts out of my head that had been sitting at the front of my mind. Was a really useful exercise. Once these thoughts were removed and then went into my journal, I then had space to think. Then I took my 2 planning notebooks. I've got 2 because one is for house and family and personal appointments, and the other one is for my writing and YouTube planning. In my Filofax is a diary, and I use this to plan my home and family activities, my house projects and general daily to-do lists. In this Filofax, I looked at the week ahead and whether I had any appointments or urgent tasks, so I knew exactly how much time I had. If I give myself time to do these activities that I would use to procrastinate, I don't then sit at my desk thinking I should be doing them until eventually I give up and then go and do them, which means my focus is 100% on the writing project. I don't have that pulling me away and distracting me, because I know I have allotted time to do that later. Then I took my planning notebook, my Le Mans, and I made a rough outline of my week. I don't make this too detailed. I've tried making it really detailed in terms of hourly blocks in the past, and this just does not work for me. So I essentially just list the main projects that I'd like to work on that day. This enables me to see I have plenty of time, even with the vet appointment, for example. And then later this week, I know I'm going to watch my daughter play netball, and I might have lunch with some friends on the Friday. I know they're planned in, and I know there is time around those activities, and don't feel that the whole week is taken up. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense to me, but the next stage is to tackle the project itself. So I've cleared my diary, I've looked at exactly how much time I've got, I've allocated time to those tasks that I might use to procrastinate. Now I'm going to look at the task or the project itself, and I do this by dividing the project up into smaller tasks. If you've been following me for a while, you'll know I've used a post-it notice board planner system to divide my goals up into projects and my projects up into tasks. And in that particular video, I did divide this writing project that I'm talking about today up into post-it tasks, but this still felt really overwhelming. I hadn't divided those tasks up into more detailed tasks, so I needed to break it down further. I've already mentioned this writing project that I've got is a book proposal, a non-fiction book proposal, and I learned how to put this book proposal together through Beth Kempton's course. She has given me the things that are required to be put into a book proposal, and now I needed to go through that material and break it all down in terms of a system that I could understand, that makes sense in my head. I'll put a link to Beth's course in the description box below. So I started by dividing the main sections I'd already written on post-its on my notice board, and I broke those down even further in my notebook. And what I tend to do is have a double page spread in my notebook so I could see exactly what needs to be done in one go, so I'm not flicking through pages, it's all right there. And then I took each of those tasks and I wrote them down onto post-it notes, and I used the orange post-it note for the main section title, and then I used blue post-its to divide those main sections up in to more detail of exactly what I needed to do. So for example, there was a couple of lessons that I haven't done of Beth's course, so I've written those down on the post-its, as well as writing down the actual physical writing that I need to do and the exercises that I need to do, and just listening to her audio that she does for the course. Everything has been written down, broken up and written down and put onto individual post-its. And from doing this very simple process, all of a sudden the project doesn't feel overwhelming anymore. It doesn't feel infinite. It doesn't spread into the distance in my mind. And I think that's one of the main issues with not writing things down and breaking things up, is that it just completely covers your brain, and you just feel it's so big, so huge, you cannot see the end finish line. But by doing this system both on the notebook and with the post-it notes, so I can now see them all on my post-it board, and then what I do is I bring them down and put them on the in progress index card for when I'll be working on it that week. And it's just basically dividing it up into blocks, manageable blocks of task, and you can see what you're going to do each week, and it just doesn't feel overwhelming. And it also feels rewarding as well, because when you then put that finished post-it onto the done section, you know it's done, and you can feel it gradually you can see it gradually decreasing in front of you, and you can see you're making progress, and the project just becomes easier in your head. And it's all about tricking your mind, I think. I've said this in my previous video, I have to trick myself to get things done, and this is such a brilliant, genius way of tricking myself. So by doing these two things in my notebook and on the post-it notice board, I then opened up Scrivener and I put the same sections in there. I created folders for it. Now, I'm pretty new to Scrivener, but in terms of my non-fiction, it's turning out to be a really useful program, because I can dump things in there like some research, or I might find something online, and I can just put them in there knowing they're there and I've saved them and I can come back to them at a later date. But it's also useful for dividing everything, well, the entire project up into these folders, and you can see they're all there on the left hand side of the screen, and then you can break these folders up into either more files or folders, sorry, or into notes. And I've done some with more folders in and some with notes in, and then the ones I've turned into red notes are those where I actually have to physically write that section of that proposal, and then all those red notes I will eventually put all together in one document, and I will have a finished book proposal. In the past, I haven't planned out my projects to this extent. I always see it as, or I always used to see it as, wasting time or procrastinating. And I know I do procrastinate, but I think this actually stops me from procrastinating. And the great thing is I know exactly where I need to start, because I just start with the first folder in Scrivener and the first task on my post-it board and the first task in my notebook, and it's all exactly the same thing. Just by having that repetition and having it in 3 places solidifies the project in my head, makes it more manageable, and doesn't feel like it's just running on forever. So that's it. That's how I tackle a big writing project that feels particularly overwhelming. I really hope this is useful. Thank you very much for watching. Please do click on that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time for another video. Bye for now. Bye.